So my name is Jarvis. I'm a proud Yorta man from Shepperton, Cumragunja. There was heaps of challenges as an Aboriginal man growing up. Starting in a mainstream school, I already felt like I had a challenge ahead of me. I felt like the teachers were already expecting me to not succeed in school. I felt like they looked at me like I was going to be a problem for them, and that their interest in helping me, progress through school wasn't there. My interest wasn't there because the school system and the teachers had no interest in me. It was a challenge for me every day just to get up and go to school because I felt like it was hard for me to ask for help. I felt like they wasn't interested in helping me. My growth and my progress in school wasn't at their best interest. They talked to us differently. The connection wasn't there. I'm a real strong observer. And as a child, I used to observe my environments a lot as well. And, it really stood out to me how other children that were non-Indigenous, how they were treated compares to how I seen my cousins get treated and how I was treated, and how he spoke to these children and then spoke to us in a different way. And, it really stood out to me. I ended up being expelled from high school, in year 8. And I actually, I got into an altercation with a teacher, and a teacher, manhandled me and grabbed me around the scruff of the neck in front of 200 students, and held me down and was screaming in my face, and I retaliated, and so I ended up being expelled. And I remember after getting expelled, my whole life changed from that day. I started engaging with people that were, I can identify with, people that were also expelled out of school, people that also found it hard to, find support and find interest in them areas. And, that led to me, hanging around people that were doing the wrong thing. I got caught up in drugs and crime. Looking back on, how the lack of support, from the teachers in the mainstream schooling was definitely plays a big factor in why, my direction in my life went the way it did. I really feel like it had a big influence on the way my life went. My first ever experience in coming into contact with the police, I was riding a bicycle without a helmet, and I remember getting pulled over, and I remember the officers, giving me a warning, but it wasn't it was a warning in telling me to make sure I wear a helmet next time. But I knew straight away that the interaction was very passive and aggressive, and it wasn't a warning for my safety. It was a warning as if to say, don't let us come into contact with you, doing the wrong thing again, or we're going to come down on you like a ton of bricks. And I think that was one of their words at one stage was, if they catch me again without a helmet, it won't look good for me, and it was like a threat. Authorities already proved to me in the education system and growing up that they didn't have my best interests at heart. And so I was seeing authorities through a lens where they wasn't there to look out for me. They wasn't there to keep me safe. Me and a couple of cousins one night were down the street and were getting up to no good, and a police officer pulled us over and a lot of my cousins took off running, and I got caught by the police. And the police come up to me and grabbed me around the scruff of the neck and stood on my toes. And he was like punching me in the face. And I remember him saying to me, you know, calling me little black this, little black that, and more or less chucking me in the divvy and taking me back to the cells. I was only probably like 16, you know, 15, 16 at the time. And looking at the other police officer that was with him, you know, the fact that he didn't even try to pull him up and try and stop, you know, I was almost looking to the other police officer for help, you know, and he didn't even pull his colleague up, you know, and that made it feel even worse. I didn't come out of it thinking I need to be very careful about doing the wrong thing. I came out of that interaction just being really cautious about, you know, coming in contact with police again. You know, I wasn't given no, you know, I wasn't, you know, it wasn't like they gave me a talk and said, you know, this is wrong what you're doing, you know, you shouldn't do this, you might end up like this. There was none of that. It was just, you know, I was manhandled, I was threatened, and yeah, I just remember feeling so, like, I just grew this hatred for the police. I started to drink more, I started to experiment with drugs and marijuana, and my crime was very frequent. And I became a lot more frequently being pulled over since that first time I got arrested, because now my name was on the books. And whenever they see me, they'd pull me over. Even if I wasn't doing nothing wrong, they'd just pull me over and they'd search my pockets. Fast forward a bit and go to the first time I was actually arrested on a serious crime. I was arrested for armed robbery, and by this time I was, you know, I was fully addicted to ice, fully addicted to, you know, tablets and alcohol, and you know, there wasn't very much a drug that I didn't use at the time, and my crime was very survival. You know, I depended on my crime to survive, and I was kept in the Shepperton cells for 28 days. And the first time I was arrested for a serious crime, I was 28. But by this time I was, you know, I had numbers of charges. You know, my charge sheet was getting really big, and you know, from stealing bikes to stealing cars to drink driving to you know, assaults and fights and verbal threats and stuff like that. And at that time, you wasn't meant to be kept that long in the cells, you know. And I thought I was going to die in the Shepperton cells, and you know, it was hell. It was hell, and it wasn't a hell in terms of making me not want to do that anymore. It was just hell that I was now part of this system. I didn't have no rehabilitation. I just had more or less clean time up, you know, and I was and it wasn't long after being released where I reoffended and I was back in prison. From 2012 to 2018, I was in and out of prison every year, and I applied to go to Odyssey House Rehabilitation Centre, and I got bailed, and I was released from Port Phillip Prison and bailed to Odyssey House. And yeah, so I went to Odyssey House for 8 months, and I was there for all the wrong reasons. I was there to just get out of court. And so when my corrections order finished and I was no longer, you know, expected to stay there, I left the program, and it wasn't long after that where I reoffended and relapsed and ended up back in prison again. I really could see myself just going around in circles in this system, you know, and, you know, I knew all I had to do at this time was miss an appointment and I'd end up back in prison. You know, I just had to miss one corrections appointment. I didn't even have to reoffend. I just have to miss an appointment and I'll be back in prison, you know. And that's when I started to realise that I was really at war with the system, and I was expected to navigate through this life and do the best as possible in an environment that was set up for us to fail. I couldn't see a way out, so I started to accept of this person I created through the drugs and the crime and being in the system. I was really starting to embrace this person. So there was a period of time where I was homeless for 8 years. You know, I was on the streets and I was couch surfing. I burnt all my bridges, you know, all the trust I had in my community. I went back to my mother's and, you know, I've already made 100 promises before that, you know, I was going to really give it a try this time, Mum. And I ended up coming home to my mother's house one night and, you know, my mother couldn't have me there no more. And I was a liability and I was very unsafe, and she got sick of coming and seeing me in the cells, and she said she can't have me there no more. I wasn't welcome there no longer. So I ended up coming down to the city, down to Melbourne, and I ended up being homeless down here on the streets. And I was actually living down Flinders Street, and if you know Sea Life and the Crown Casino, the train track bridge that goes from Flinders to across Sea Life, and that I was living under there. I can remember, you know, sleeping in a park and the rain coming down, and I was that exhausted and that hungry that I couldn't even move. You know, I just had to lay there and in the rain, you know, and I just remember feeling so like, yeah, just so not cared about and so lost. And, you know, for 8 years I was homeless, you know, and I like I said, you know, I was 8 months on the streets of Melbourne, you know, sleeping in alleyways and out in the footpath in front of public and yeah, just I really feel like the housing system really failed me in that time, you know. I feel like there should have been more opportunities for me to have more respite from the streets, you know, whether it was a motel here and there, whether it was some sort of respite facility, you know, especially in the regional towns, you know. There's not many places where I could go and shower, where I could go and wash my clothes, where I could go and, you know, eat something. And in this time I overdosed probably about five times. I woke up probably like 3 times in hospital. I woke up in the Alfred Hospital twice and St Vincent's once. And I remember the last time I overdosed, I woke up in the Alfred Hospital, and I remember waking up and looking down at my name tag, and it said unknown, and it really just shocked me, you know. And I ended up asking the nurse, how did I get here, you know? And she said, you were found face down on the train tracks at Flinders Street Station. And it really just shocked me, you know. And I remember asking God, you know, like, why am I still waking up, you know? Why am I still here? And I remember thinking to myself, I could actually die right now. I could have actually died, and my children wouldn't even know where I am. My family wouldn't even know, and no one would even know who I am, you know. And but I remember thinking, a part of me knew something had to change, but a part of me felt so stuck and so out of options. I walked out straight out of the hospital. I was bare feet in the robe, pulled all the tubes out myself, the drip and all that stuff, and I just walked out. And I ended up back down on the streets. I remember going and calling my mother, and she said to me, we got some exciting news for you. We got some mail from housing, you've got a house, you know, and this was 8 years I was on the waiting list for, and I finally got this place. And I had all these good intentions, and it was a 3-bedroom place, and, you know, I remember just grabbing little that I had, little wet red bag full of stuff, little bits of clothes that I had, and I jumped off them pylons and I went back to the train station. No money, and I jumped straight on the train and I went back to Shepperton. And I remember telling my kids and that, you know, I finally got a place for us, you know, I'm going to do the right thing now. And I had all these good intentions, you know, to do the right thing, but I was still stuck in the system. I was still a statistic, and I was still, you know, very much more than ever addicted to drugs. I wasn't just addicted to like ice and tablets and alcohol and marijuana. Now I had a heroin habit from being in the city, and it wasn't much longer where the drugs took over that place, you know, and I started opening my doors up to all the wrong people, and I ended up back down and out again, and so, you know, I felt guilt, I felt bad because I let my kids down again, and, you know, I was out doing crime and that again. So I ended up committing another serious crime, another armed robbery. I knew that I was going to go for a long time because this was my second armed robbery, and my criminal history was very extensive now, and so what happened was I ended up getting caught by the police. I ended up being back in the Shepperton cells, and I remember just sitting in there defeated, you know, and accepting, and I was ready to do a long time. Like, I was starting to accept that this is my life and it's never going to change, and my fire was getting dimmer inside of me to fight to break that cycle, you know. And I remember the trap door came down in the cells, and the police officer said, "Jarvis, there's someone here to see you." I went into the visitor's box and I sat down, and a drug and alcohol worker from Odyssey House came back, and she seen me, and she said, you know, "You should give Odyssey House another go." And I said, "No way." You know, I knew how hard this program is, and what it would have needed, how much commitment it would have needed from me. And she said to me, "Do you remember when your son came and visited you in 2015, 2016? And so in 2015, Christmas time, there was, at Odyssey House, my son came and seen me. And in the front foyer, they had a wishing tree, a prayer tree. And on that tree, the visitors that came Christmas time could write a wish or a prayer and hang it on the tree. And my son wrote on a piece of paper, "All I want is for my dad to stay off the drugs forever." And I sort of forgot about it. And she reminded me, you know, she said, "Do you remember the wish your son made, the prayer your son made?" And it just broke me, you know. I just started crying, and it gave me the strength and lit that fire up in me to pick up the pen and sign the application to go back to Odyssey. And it wasn't a given that the judge was gonna bail me there. On the 1st of March 2018, I got accepted back to Odyssey House, and I got bailed, and I went there and I ended up doing 3 years in this program, and I completed it, I graduated, and you know, I haven't looked back since. You know, my whole life, you know, like I said in school, where, you know, I was expected to fail, and I was expected to be a problem, and I wasn't expected to make it. You know, a lot of people really didn't have hope in me succeeding in life, and you know, at times in my life, you know, people, you know, I had family members that really thought that I would never change. really thought that I would die the way I was living, you know. That was really, I had fears that they were going to bury me, you know. I had aunties and uncles say to me, you know, are we going to be coming to your funeral next? And just having someone, you know, like that drug and alcohol worker that came and seen me, and you know, I was at my lowest of the lowest, and you know, I really didn't at times I didn't think I could change. There was someone that didn't give up on me, and there was someone that was still interested enough to go out of their way to come and see me and tell me to give Odyssey another go. You know, it was so empowering at that time. I was homeless, you know, I dropped out of school early, you know, criminal record, you know, I was in all these areas, and so I was up against this person, you know. I knew when I went back to Odyssey House that I had to break down this person. I had to break down this person that I've created, that the system created. And so I knew I had to change the way I walked, I had to change the way I talked, I had to change the way I dressed, I had to change the way I thought about myself. And you know, so it was a constant battle, you know. So I was doing all these external challenges in the house, you know, engaging in the program, using the groups. I was very committed, you know. I couldn't see the end of it. You know, I just knew that I was going to sit through whatever challenges came up against me, whatever walls I had to climb, whatever mountains I had to climb. And it was massive, you know. I knew that this was my my turnaround. I was encouraged through the whole program. I was guided, I was supported culturally, you know. We had the Boladu Naragu program once a week where we could engage in culture, and I was on my healing journey, you know. I knew that I was going to heal, you know. I was learning new life skills in there. I was learning routine and structure, and most of all, I was learning values, you know. What I had to do is I had to set myself role models within this program, and in this program there's levels in the program, you know. There's foundations, and there's level 1, and there's level 2, and there's level 3, and then there's levers, and each level has leaders, you know. And it made it possible for me to vision where I wanted to go in the program. And you know, like for example, a big role model and a big inspiration to me was the drug and alcohol worker. She actually was a resident at Odyssey House as well, and she came out the other side of it, and I guess that helped me really conceive that it was possible. There is another sense to the program where you can be influenced in the wrong way as well. So it was up to me to really identify the leaders in the program versus the people that were there like I was in my first program. So I knew the person I was in there the first time, and that was the person I didn't want to follow. You know, in this program I learnt a lot of skills. I learnt, you know, a lot of property and development maintenance skills. I learnt how to, you know, I worked in the children's centre there at the program. I worked in the kitchen. I learnt, you know, a lot of kitchen hand stuff, and I learned a lot of conflict resolution skills, therapy skills, you know, and a lot of just facilitation skills. And while I was in level 3, I went back and studied. So I went to uni, and I went and studied AOD, alcohol and other drugs, and I got my Cert 4 in that. And that was massive for me, you know, because I dropped out of school like in year 7, year 8, and I never ever thought I'd ever think about even going back and putting my head down and trying to study. And you know, I built up the confidence to go back to uni. and complete my Cert 4. I was really supported. You know, the other people in the class, the non-Indigenous, you know, students in the class was really embracing me. They were really good. I think too, given the fact it depends what the subject is, because AOD, they know that it's a high in our people, they know they're going to be working with our people. So I really felt like their support was filtered through a lot of that as well. But, you know, I had one really close friend in there. She supported me through the whole thing, you know, and she really batted for me, and she really helped me get over, you know, where I struggled. She, over time, she studied with me, and she helped me get my assignments in on time, and she was really genuine, you know, and she's not Indigenous, but she's got a strong passion for our people, and I really feel like we need more non-Indigenous people like her. But it was great in there. I could embrace my story, my journey, and I was almost like an assignment for them, you know. I was, you know, like everything I was learning about was exactly me, you know, and it was just blowing me away. Like I was learning so much about myself in there as well. Just realizing how important it is to have a number of networks, and they had to be healthy networks, you know. Coming out of that environment and coming back into this environment, I really had to be aware of all my triggers, you know, people, places and things. I've got leadership roles now in my community, you know. People look up to me in my job role, and you know, all the kids, you know, call me uncle. I have so much of a desire and a passion after, you know, looking up to strong role models and leaders in community, and just to one day be able to like walk in their footsteps, you know, fill their shoes, and I feel like I'm sort of just on the tip of it at the moment, just starting to take up and play my part in that. And you know, I know I've got plenty more to do, and plenty more fights, and plenty more opportunities to lead our people. When I was studying AOD, I used to catch the bus from Odyssey House every day into Swinburne. I saw this spray paint tag on the wall, and it said treaty. And I remember just sitting on that bus every day for 6 months straight, thinking, how can I play my part? I could hear my people's voices, you know, screaming for treaty. Like, treaty, we want treaty, when do we want it now? You know, and seeing the kids, and I was just thinking, like, this fire was just building up in me, and I was just fueling it. And so for 12 months straight, I was attending all these Yana circles and events, and it came a time where my mentor and my boss, my mentor at the time, gave me an opportunity to organise my own event back in Shepperton, back in the town where, you know, I lost respect, and, you know, I had no trust, and so I said, great, you know, I embraced it. And I ended up organising my own event in Shepperton. So Stephanie Ross seen potential in me. She took an interest to me, you know, so she more or less took me under her wing. I'm an engagement project officer. I work in the metropolitan region. So my job is to organise events. I do public speaking, and more or less help mob to get enrolled. All my life, people probably didn't expect me to be a winner. You know, they didn't expect me to succeed, and it comes across as a shock to them that they're so proud of me as well. But it's so empowering to people, because that's the beauty of my story, is because when all hope was lost and all trust was gone, I was able to turn that back around. No one is ever too far gone. I strongly believe that no one is ever too far gone. In the education system, I would really love to see, you know, more support for the children, and more awareness on, you know, the different supports that are needed individually for each children, you know. I think just more educated teachers in the system, you know, and more genuine teachers in the system that actually want the best for our people, and just more care. And I want to hear more stories of people's experiences, you know, coming through the education system. More truth telling in the schooling systems, you know, to bring awareness to the system.